My sister stole my $60,000 house fund and my parents backed her. So I quietly bought their beach mansion and watched them beg for my forgiveness. I stood in front of the black iron gates of the beachfront mansion my family still called the Happy House. It used to be a childhood paradise, but now it was just a perfect picture of memories that no longer belonged to me. I leaned against the car, catching my reflection in the window glass. My hair blew in the sea breeze. My eyes were tired but still holding a spark. I had driven 4 hours to get here, hoping that this time they'd greet me with a hug instead of disdainful glances. "Oh wow, Allison, you actually made it!" came the sweet but mocking voice of my sister Madison from the backyard. She was laughing loudly, holding a cocktail glass, her golden hair shining under the sun. Around her were relatives and friends, all looking at me with curious eyes. "Didn't think you'd show up," Madison smirked, her eyes scanning me from head to toe. "I figured you'd be busy doing something insignificant." I clenched the car keys, feeling the heat rise in my palms. I hadn't been here since the last time they laughed at me for losing my job. And now, while Madison flaunted her designer dress, I was still wearing the same old jeans, the only thing I could afford after paying rent this month. I stepped into the house, and the sound of laughter echoed from the living room. My mother stood in the center, holding a wine glass, her eyes shining as she looked at Madison. My father stood beside her, arm around Madison, his face beaming with pride. "Look at this. Our wonderful daughter is now a manager," my mother announced, her voice loud and thrilled, not even glancing at me for a single second. Madison giggled, her eyes glinting with smug satisfaction. "The company threw a celebration party for me. Naturally, everyone was there except you." I bit down on my lip, forcing my voice to stay steady. "Mom, Dad, I just drove 4 hours to be here. Can I talk to you for a minute?" My father looked at me, his expression blank. "Can't you see Madison is talking about her new job? Try not to ruin the moment, Allison." My throat tightened. Everyone was laughing, clinking glasses in a toast to Madison. I just stood there, silent and invisible, like a stranger in my own family. "Oh, Allison, I just remembered." Madison sauntered over to me, still holding her cocktail glass. "Mom and Dad said I could stay in the apartment you're renting. After all, you don't need that much space." I frowned. "What do you mean?" Madison shrugged, her lips curling into a smug grin. "I mean, they think you should move somewhere else. You know, I need the space for work and they paid the deposit for that place." "So, they paid the deposit?" I repeated, barely able to believe my ears. My mother stepped forward, her eyes cold. "Allison, you need to understand that Madison needs that apartment to focus on her new job, and you can manage on your own, right?" I stood there stunned. Yes, they had paid the deposit, but it was with money from my savings account, the money I'd spent 6 years scraping together. They had promised to pay it back. But now, Madison shot me a pitying look. "You're always so strong, Allison. You'll be fine." A lump rose in my throat. I no longer recognized the people standing before me. They weren't family. They were just strangers dressed in fancy clothes, laughing about my sister's success without a single thought about me, the one they always called the disappointment. I turned and walked quickly out of the beachfront mansion. The ocean wind hit me, carrying the scent of salt and the sting of betrayal. I looked up at the sky, taking a deep breath to keep the tears at bay. One question echoed in my mind. Why was I always the one to sacrifice while they only took? But I knew today would be the last time they'd treat me like a disappointment. I came here to say goodbye, and this time, I wasn't coming back. I drove back to the tiny apartment I'd rented after losing my job. It was on the 7th floor of an old building with no elevator and a constant musty smell. This wasn't where I'd imagined living at 33, not after being the deputy financial director at a major company. But as the door closed behind me, I felt an odd sense of calm. At least here, I didn't have to watch Madison's smug grin, or my mother's cold eyes. I tossed the keys onto the table and headed to the kitchen to make a cup of coffee. The old coffee maker sputtered and groaned, a reminder that even the small things in my life were falling apart. My phone buzzed, A message from my mother, Allison. Your father and I just spoke with Madison. She'll be moving into that apartment next week. Please make arrangements to move out by Friday. It's for Madison's benefit. We hope you understand. I closed my eyes, struggling to keep the anger from boiling over. For Madison's benefit? What about me? Since when did I become a stranger in the very apartment I had paid for? Part of me wanted to call them right away to scream that they were being completely unfair. But I knew it would only make them look down on me more. In their eyes, I was always the failure, the one who never met the family's expectations. Meanwhile, Madison was the golden child. She dropped out of college, drifted from job to job, but still received my mother's unconditional love. Whenever Madison failed, my mother was there to bail her out. But when I lost my job, my mother said, "See, I told you to choose a more stable career." The phone rang again. I looked at the screen. It was Luke, Madison's ex-boyfriend. Why was he calling me? "Allison," he said quickly, his breath heavy. "Can you meet me at the cafe on the corner of Market and Pine? There's something you need to know." "What is it?" "Just come," he said, his voice tense. "Trust me, you need to hear this." 15 minutes later, I walked into the cafe, scanning the room until I spotted Luke in a corner booth. He was wearing a hoodie, holding a coffee cup but not drinking it. His eyes were dark, circled, like he hadn't slept in days. "Allison." Luke nodded as I sat down. "I don't even know where to start." "Start with why you're contacting me after 3 years," I said, folding my arms. Luke took a deep breath and let it out. "Madison, she's hiding something from everyone." "What is it?" I frowned. "That car she's been showing off." "Do you know where the money came from?" "From my savings," I said through clenched teeth. Luke shook his head. "Not just that. She took out a personal loan using your name." My whole body went cold. "What did you just say?" "Madison forged your signature to get a loan. It's $60,000. I couldn't breathe. $60,000? That was more than enough to put a down payment on the apartment I'd been dreaming of. "You have to do something, Allison," Luke said, his eyes full of concern. "She's spending your money like it's hers. And the worst part is your parents know." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. They know, and they still let her do it. They don't just know. Luke gritted his teeth. They helped her do it. I stood up, feeling my face flush with heat. "I need to go." "Thanks, Luke." "Be careful, Allison," Luke called after me as I rushed out of the cafe. "Madison, she's not the person you used to know." I hurried back to my apartment, my heart pounding like it was about to burst. One thought echoed in my mind. How could Madison do this to me? And how could my parents help her? Standing in front of my apartment door, I saw a large cardboard box sitting right in the middle of the hallway. On top was a note with scrolled handwriting, "Move your stuff out. Madison needs the room." I clenched my fists, my fingers trembling. Madison had taken everything from me. My efforts, my money, even the roof over my head. The laptop screen lit up with a familiar notification sound. I clicked on the email icon, determined not to let myself get lost in a storm of emotions. But then the subject line appeared like a knife twisting into my chest. "Family reunion this weekend, the Blake family." I slowly opened the email. Beneath the flowery words, the fake scent of unity hung in the air like cheap perfume. "Dear Allison, we're hosting a family reunion this weekend at the beach house. Madison will be in charge of organizing it. There will be many special surprises for everyone. Unfortunately, due to limited seating, you won't be able to attend. Hope you understand. Love, Mom." I let out a dry, bitter laugh, my anger rising like a wave. Limited seating, right? I knew exactly what the real reason was. To them, I had always been the extra, the one who never fit into the perfect family picture they were painting. I stood up and walked to the window, staring down at the street below. The headlights of passing cars flashed by, people moving like shadows without direction. Everyone had a place to go, a place to call home. But me, even after contributing thousands of dollars to that beach house, I was still considered an outsider. The beach house. I closed my eyes. The image of it played like a slow-motion film in my mind. The white house with blue-tiled roof, the wide balcony facing the ocean. It was once a paradise for Madison and me as kids, but now it was just the place where Madison threw lavish parties, flaunting her glamorous life funded by my money. The ringing phone snapped me back to reality. It was Lucas, my best friend from college, and also my financial advisor. "Lucas, what's going on?" I answered, my voice still tinged with a dull ache. "Are you sitting down?" Lucas asked, his tone unusually serious. "What's wrong?" A sense of foreboding washed over me. "The beach house, it's up for sale." My heart stopped for a second. "What?" "They're selling it. They owe the bank over $100,000. Madison just applied for another loan to cover the debt but got denied. Now they have no choice but to sell the house." I sank back into the chair, my fingers trembling. They were selling the house that I once considered my last refuge. They were selling it without even bothering to tell me, the one who paid for the roof repairs, the insurance when Madison set the kitchen on fire, trying to cook while drunk. "Lucas," I said, my voice suddenly calm and cold. "Can you do me a favor?" "Of course. What do you need me to do?" "I want to buy that house." Immediately, Lucas went silent for a moment. "Are you sure? That's a lot of money." "I know," I said firmly, "but I'm not letting them sell it to someone else, not the place that holds all my memories. I'll handle all the legal work." "But are you planning to buy it under your name?" I shook my head, even though Lucas couldn't see me. "No, I want it purchased under the real estate company I just formed last month. They won't suspect a thing. I don't want them to know I'm the one holding the deed to that house." "Got it," Lucas replied. "I'll take care of it. Do you want me to keep you posted?" "No," I said, my eyes fixed on the laptop screen where my mother's email was still open. "I just need to know the day they officially get evicted." I hung up, taking a deep breath. In my mind, the image of Madison laughing as she pushed me out of the apartment she stole was still crystal clear. The beach house was their last source of pride. The place where Madison and my mother threw parties, bragging about their perfect family, but now I was the one holding the keys. I would let them keep pretending, let them keep hosting family gatherings without me in a house they believed was still theirs. 3 months later, I stood on the 32nd floor of Glassview Tower, the headquarters of Westfield and Company, through the glass windows. I could see the entire city of Los Angeles gleaming under the golden sun. A strange feeling rose in my chest, the feeling of someone standing at the top, but still not fully believing it was real. 3 months ago, I was a jobless nobody, looked down upon by my family, pushed out of my apartment by my sister. But now, I was the international vice president of Westfield and Company, the one who just closed a merger deal worth over $150 million with Richardson Financial Group. This merger not only brought millions of dollars in revenue to my company, but also solidified my position in the financial industry, a field my family never considered me capable of succeeding in. A knock on the door pulled me out of my thoughts. The door swung open, and Lucas walked in holding a newspaper. "Take a look at this," he said, his smile proud. "I think you'll like this article." He placed the newspaper on the table in front of me. The headline hit me like a lightning bolt. Allison Blake, the woman who changed the financial landscape of Westfield and Company. Beneath it was a photo of me shaking hands with the senior executives of Richardson, my smile confident, my face glowing. "I can't believe it," I whispered. "Everything happened so fast." "You did it, Allison," Lucas said, sitting across from me, his expression serious. "And now everyone has to recognize it." I nodded, my eyes still fixed on the newspaper. In my mind, the image of my family flashed, especially my mother and Madison. They had always seen me as a failure, someone incapable of achieving anything substantial. But now, what would they say when they saw my face on the cover of the top financial magazine? "I just got a call from a TV station," Lucas said, leaning forward. "They want you to do an interview about the Richardson merger and your upcoming plans in Hong Kong." I looked up. "Hong Kong?" Lucas smiled. "Didn't you hear? The board just approved your new position as international VP, and the new headquarters will be based in Hong Kong. You'll be managing the entire Asia-Pacific region." My heart skipped a beat. Hong Kong, the city of lights, opportunities, and endless possibilities. I'd once dreamed of working there, but never imagined I'd be in such a high-ranking position. "You deserve this, Allison," Lucas said, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "But before you head to Hong Kong, I think you should see this." Lucas pulled out his phone, tapped a few buttons, and handed it to me. It was a live video stream from a party at the beach house, the house I secretly purchased. In the video, Madison was standing in the middle of the living room holding a wine glass, her shrill laughter echoing. "Everyone, let's raise a glass to me. Today I officially became the new business director of the family company." The crowd erupted in applause. Madison stepped to the center of the room, raising her glass high. "I told you all I finally have it all. This house, the director position, and everyone's recognition." Lucas paused the video and looked at me, his expression serious. "They have no idea you bought that house, do they?" I gave him a half smile. "No, and I don't plan on telling them. At least not yet." Lucas tilted his head, a hint of curiosity in his eyes. "So, when are you going to reveal the truth?" "I'm going to wait until everyone is settled in Hong Kong," I said, my gaze fixed on the expansive view outside. "Then, I'll send the official notice. And when they find out that the house they were so proud of actually belongs to me, I want to be there to see their faces." Lucas raised an eyebrow, visibly surprised. "You've really changed, Allison. From the girl they trampled on to a strong, ruthless businesswoman." "No," I said, eyes still locked on the skyline. "I'm still Allison. I've just learned to fight back instead of bowing down." At that moment, my phone rang. An unfamiliar number flashed on the screen. "Hello," I answered. "Allison?" My mother's voice trembled, laced with desperation. "I just read the article about you. Is it true? You're really the international vice president at Westfield and Company?" I let out a bitter laugh, each word from her like a knife slicing through my chest. "Yes, Mom. Now you finally see the truth, don't you?" There was silence on the other end. I thought she'd hung up until she spoke again, her voice shaky. "Allison, can you help Madison? She's in serious trouble." I gripped the phone, my breathing quickening. "Help Madison? The one who stole my apartment, drained my savings, and threw parties in the house she didn't even know I owned. Allison, are you still there?" I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. The moment I would show them I was no longer the pushover Allison they could easily take advantage of. "I'm sorry, Mom," I said, my voice as cold as ice. "I'm busy preparing for my flight to Hong Kong, and this time I'm not looking back." I hung up, feeling like I had just severed the final chain tying me to the past. Lucas stepped closer, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "Hong Kong will be a new chapter for you, a chapter you write for yourself." I nodded, eyes steely. "And this time, no one will take it from me." On a bright, clear day, a gentle sea breeze swept through the trees. I stood in the living room of the beach house. The house that once belonged to my family, now it was mine, and they had no idea. I wore a cream-colored dress, sharp heels, and my hair was neatly pulled back in a high bun. Sunlight streamed through the large glass windows, casting my reflection onto the polished wooden floors. I adjusted the pearl necklace around my neck. A gift I bought for myself after the Hong Kong deal was a smashing success. The sound of car horns echoed from the driveway. My heart pounded, but my face remained calm. They were here. I walked to the door, opened it, and greeted them with a radiant smile. Madison was the first to step in, dragging a massive suitcase, her face beaming as if she were still the queen of this house. "Sis," Madison chirped, eyes wide when she saw me. "You're here for the reunion too?" I tilted my head, a sly smile forming. "Oh, of course I had to be here to welcome everyone." Before Madison could respond, my parents walked in. My mother was wrapped in her favorite faux fur coat, her eyes scanning every inch of the house as if inspecting her territory. My father trailed behind her, eyes sunken and tired. "Allison." My mother stared at me, confusion evident on her face. "Why are you here? Why am I here?" I repeated, my tone calm. "Oh, I'm just here to welcome the special guests of the day," Madison frowned. What are you talking about? This is my house. I let out a soft, almost pitying laugh. Your house? I pulled a folder from my coat pocket and held it up. This is the new ownership certificate for this house. It was transferred 3 months ago. The new owner is me. All three of them stood frozen, eyes wide with disbelief. Madison stared at the papers in my hand, her lips moving as if trying to form words. You bought this house? With the money you stole from me, I said, locking eyes with her. When you took my apartment, when you drained my savings, the money I spent 6 years working for, I decided I wasn't going to just sit back and let it happen. And this is the result. My mother shook her head, her eyes glistening with tears. Allison, you can't do this to your family. This house is where we made all our childhood memories. How could you? Oh, you want to talk about childhood memories? I stepped closer to her, our faces inches apart. Then, do you remember the mornings I woke up at 5 to make breakfast for Madison? Or the times I had to take days off work to babysit her when she was unemployed and drunk? My mother fell silent, her gaze dropping to the floor. And Dad? I turned to my father, the man I once thought would protect me no matter what. Do you remember the last time you called me a daughter to be proud of? Or do you only remember Madison, your perfect little princess? My father clenched his jaw, not saying a word. Madison's hands balled into fists, her face flushing red. What are you trying to prove, Allison? Do you think just because you have some money now, you can come back here and humiliate me? I arched an eyebrow. Humiliate you? You think this is humiliation? You don't know what humiliation is yet. I walked to the kitchen counter, pulled out another stack of papers, and placed them on the table in front of them. These are reservations for suites at the 5-star hotel downtown. All rooms are ready for you to host this year's family reunion. My mother's eyes widened. A hotel? Why do we need to go to a hotel? This is our house. Your house? I sneered. No, this is my house, and today I'm not in the mood to host any family reunion here. If you want to keep partying, the 5-star hotel is the perfect choice. Madison stormed up to me, her eyes blazing. You're a monster. How long have you been planning this? Since the day you took my apartment, I said, my voice icy. And you know what, Madison? This is just the beginning. Madison clenched her fists, her eyes burning with fury. You'll pay for this, Allison, I swear. I've already paid more than enough, Madison, I said, my gaze unyielding. Now it's your turn. Outside the window, the waves crashed against the shore in powerful, relentless surges. But this time, I wasn't the weak, helpless girl standing on the sidelines of my own life. 3 weeks after the tense confrontation at the beach house, I sat by the window of my new apartment in downtown Los Angeles, watching the city lights shimmer like stars. The beach house was now rented out, bringing in a steady income. I no longer felt the need to hold on to it. It was just a piece of the past I was determined to leave behind. My phone rang. It was my mother's number. I stared at the screen for a long time. Since that day, she hadn't called. Madison hadn't either. It was as if they both decided I no longer existed. Finally, I picked up. Hello, Allison. My mother's voice was weak and shaky. Can I see you? I sighed. What do you want? I just want to see you, please. I closed my eyes, forcing myself to stay calm. Fine. Meet me at the cafe on Market Street at 3. At 3 o'clock, I sat in the corner booth, my hands wrapped around a steaming latte. My mother walked in, looking thinner and more frail than I remembered. She sat down across from me, eyes hesitant. What do you want to say? I started. She looked at me, her eyes red-rimmed. I've been thinking a lot since that day. I was wrong. I can't believe things have gone this far. I crossed my arms over my chest. Really? Then why didn't you say anything when Madison took my apartment? When she spent all my savings? What did you do? My mother dropped her head, her fingers twisting together. I knew everything, but I kept quiet because I was afraid of losing Madison. I let out a bitter laugh. So, you'd rather lose me than lose Madison? My mother reached into her bag and pulled out a small black box, placing it on the table. "Open it." I frowned, hesitating before lifting the lid. Inside were old photographs, letters, and crayon drawings I'd made as a child. There was even the letter I'd sent her when I moved into my first apartment after college, sharing my dreams and plans. The letter I thought she had thrown away. "You kept all of these?" I asked, my voice thick with emotion. "I never forgot you, Allison," my mother replied, tears streaming down her cheeks. I was too weak. I thought if I admitted Madison was wrong, she'd hate me. But now I realize I've lost you." I looked into my mother's eyes, and the coldness I'd been holding on to began to melt away. But the pain was still there, like a wound that hadn't fully healed. "So, what do you want now?" My mother reached for my hand, her eyes pleading. "I want you to give me a chance. I'm not asking you to forgive me right away, but please let me show you that I still care." I pulled my hand away and stood up. "You know what? I once wished that just once you'd stand by me. But you didn't. Now I need time to think." My mother watched me, her face stricken. "Allison, can't you?" I turned my back and walked away without looking back. 2 days later, I was sitting in my office, eyes fixed on the computer when the door burst open. Madison rushed in, her face pale and exhausted. "Allison," she shouted, her eyes red and swollen. "You have to help me." I looked up calmly. "Help you? And why would I do that?" "The company I was working for just found out I faked my degree," Madison said, her voice breaking. "They fired me. I have nowhere to go." I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms. "Really? Mom's perfect little princess now needs help from the daughter she always called a failure." Madison dropped to her knees in front of me, tears streaming down her face. "I know I was wrong, Allison. I know I was terrible to you, but I have nothing now. No money, no job, and Mom doesn't know what to do." I looked down at Madison, the sister who stole my apartment, who humiliated me in front of everyone. Now she was on her knees, begging for my help. I leaned down, lifting her chin to look her in the eyes. "You know, Madison, I used to be you, always begging for someone to notice me. But I'm not that weak Allison anymore. If you want to start over, I'll help you. But just this once. And if you ever betray me again..." Madison nodded frantically, her tears falling like rain. "I promise I won't betray you again." "Fine," I said, standing up. "Then get up. I'll give you a job, but you're starting from the bottom, no exceptions." Madison grabbed my hand, sobbing. "Thank you. Thank you so much." When Madison left my office, I turned back to my desk, gazing out the window. The afternoon sun streamed in, illuminating the room. Maybe, just maybe, I'd found a glimmer of light in the wreckage of the past, but could I trust them again? I wasn't sure, but at least I was willing to try. The Hong Kong skyline stretched endlessly, skyscrapers glittering like stars against the night sky. I stood on the balcony of my new apartment, holding a glass of wine, eyes fixed on the city, slowly drifting into sleep. It had been 3 months since I arrived here, starting my new role as the international vice president of Westfield and Company. Everything happened so quickly that I barely had time to breathe. Life was busy and successful, yet strangely lonely. The phone rang. It was Madison. I set the wine glass down, my finger hovering over the screen. Finally, I answered. "Sis?" Madison's voice sounded weak and shaky. I just wanted to tell you that I got my first job since getting fired." I closed my eyes, exhaling a sigh of relief. "Really? You did it?" "Yes," Madison said, her voice a bit stronger now. "I had to start as a receptionist. But at least I'm working for real this time, not living off someone else. That's what I always wanted you to understand," I said, feeling a weight lift off my chest. "You're growing up, Madison." Madison was silent for a moment. "Sis, are you still angry at me?" I looked out at the vast cityscape, the light still flickering in the distance. "You know, Madison, forgiveness isn't easy. I was furious with you, but holding on to that anger only made me more exhausted. So, I'll forgive you, but with conditions." "What conditions?" Madison asked, her voice tense. You have to stand on your own 2 feet, I said firmly. No more asking Mom for money. No more relying on anyone else. You have to support yourself. And if you can do that, my door will always be open for you. Madison began to cry. I understand. I won't let you down. I nodded, but said nothing more. Though I had forgiven her, my trust was still far from restored. The next day, as I was going through financial reports on my computer screen, there was a knock at the door. Come in, I said without looking up. The door opened and my mother walked in. I was so shocked that I couldn't speak. She stood there wearing a simple dress, clutching her handbag tightly. Allison. She looked at me, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I know you're busy, but I need to talk to you. You flew all the way from Los Angeles? I asked, still struggling to believe she was actually standing in front of me. Yes, she said, lowering her eyes. I needed to talk to you in person. I've been thinking a lot since that day. I stood up and gestured to the chair across from me. Have a seat. My mother sat down, still clutching her bag. Allison, I've made so many mistakes. I let Madison walk all over you. I didn't protect you when you needed me most. I let my fear of losing Madison make me turn my back on you. And now I realize I've lost both of my daughters. My eyes stung. Every word she said was like a knife piercing through my heart. I went to see Madison, she continued. She's trying to change. She found a real job. And I think it's because of you. You made her see that no one can rely on others forever. Mom, I choked up. Do you know how much I suffered? Watching Madison live in my apartment. Watching you and Dad defend her without a single thought for me. My mother bowed her head. I'm going to miss you. I don't want to lose you. I took a deep breath. You know what? You lost me a long time ago, but if you really want to change, I'll give you a chance. My mother's eyes widened, hope shining through the tears. You forgive me? I won't forget what you did, I said, my voice still cold, but softening slightly. But I'll open the door for you to step back in. The rest is up to you, whether you're strong enough to rebuild what you broke. My mother nodded, tears streaming down her face. I will try, I promise. I stood up and walked over, pulling her into a hug. She held on to me as if afraid I might vanish at any moment. In that moment, I felt the warmth I had been longing for all these years. That evening, I sat on the balcony looking up at the night sky. A message from Madison popped up on my phone screen. I just sent you a picture of my new apartment. I'm paying the rent myself. I hope that one day I can invite you over. I looked at the photo. A small but tidy and clean apartment. Madison was standing by the window smiling. I replied, I'll be waiting for that day. I put the phone down, closed my eyes, and took a deep breath. From here in Hong Kong, I was beginning a new chapter. No longer the weak Allison, no longer the abandoned girl. But I would still keep the door open for Madison, for my mother, and for anyone who truly wanted to change. Because I'd learned that forgiveness isn't about forgetting the past. It's about opening your heart to something better. And this time, I was ready. My apartment in Hong Kong was now fully furnished. The wide glass walls opened up to a view of the glittering Victoria Harbor. Inside, the living room was neatly arranged with a modern gray sofa and an abstract painting I had just bought last week. I sat in the chair holding a cup of hot tea, my eyes following the boats drifting lazily on the water. Everything was perfect, at least on the outside. But inside, I still felt an invisible void, like something hadn't quite been filled. My phone buzzed. A message from Madison. I just got hired as a marketing assistant. I did the application myself without anyone's help. I've changed, sis. I smiled and typed back, I'm proud of you. Setting the phone down, I leaned back in the chair, my mind drifting to the past. Back then, I thought that getting justice was the ultimate goal. When I took back the beach house, when I threw them out, I thought I'd won. But in reality, the emptiness still haunted me every night. Maybe what I truly craved wasn't revenge, but recognition. I wanted my mother to see me, not as the girl she always considered a failure, but as a woman standing on her own, successful without relying on anyone. I wanted Madison to realize her mistakes and change, not for me, but for herself, and in the end, I'd achieved that. But throughout it all, I also realized something else. Success isn't about revenge. It's about rediscovering your own worth. about rebuilding from the shattered pieces of old wounds. One afternoon, as I sat in my office, Lucas walked in carrying a small gift bag. "Allison," he said, placing the bag on my desk with a smile. "Congratulations on 1 year of success in Hong Kong." I laughed, opening the bag. Inside was a framed photo, me standing on the rooftop of the Westfield and Company building, looking confidently toward the horizon. "I took it secretly." Lucas winked. "You had no idea." I stared at the photo, emotions swelling in my chest. "Thank you, Lucas. You've always been there when I had no one else." "That's not true," Lucas said, sitting down across from me, his eyes serious. "You're not alone. You have me. You have Madison, who's trying every day to change, and you have your mother. She's trying to reconnect with you little by little." I sighed, gazing out the window. Family isn't about blood. It's about the people willing to change and walk with you when you succeed, even if it's late. Lucas nodded. "And now you've built a new family, people who genuinely appreciate you for who you are." That night, I returned to my apartment and opened the box my mother had given me before she returned to Los Angeles. Inside were old keepsakes, the letter I'd written to her when I got accepted to college, a drawing Madison made for me when we were kids, and the bracelet my father had given me on my 18th birthday. I held the bracelet, the cold metal sending a chill through me as it awakened memories long buried. My phone buzzed again. It was a video call from Madison. "Allison," Madison said excitedly when I answered. She was sitting on the old couch in her new rented apartment, surrounded by unpacked boxes. "What are you up to?" I asked, trying to suppress a smile. "I just finished my first week at the new job," Madison said, her face glowing. "My boss said I have good communication skills and might be considered for a management assistant position if I keep it up." "Really?" I asked, feeling a surge of pride. Madison nodded, her eyes shining. "I just wanted to thank you, Allison. If it weren't for you, I never would have learned how to stand up and start over." "No, Madison," I said gently. "You did that yourself. I just helped you see your own strength." Madison was silent for a moment. "I miss you, Allison. I hope one day we can sit down, have tea, and talk like real sisters." I bit my lip, looking up at the ceiling to hold back the tears. "I hope for that too, Madison, and I believe that day will come." The next morning, I woke up early and decided to take a walk along Victoria Harbor. The sea breeze gently tousled my hair, carrying with it the familiar scent of salt. I stopped in front of a small cafe, walked inside, and ordered a hot latte. As I sat down, I took out my phone and sent a message to my mother. "Mom, I hope you're doing well. Whenever you're ready, come visit me in Hong Kong. I'll show you all the places I've been. The door is still open, and I'm still waiting." I set the phone down and took a deep breath. Hong Kong sparkled with city lights. The sky stretched out endlessly, no longer weighing down on me like it once did because now I had truly found myself. I had redefined my worth, not by proving myself to those who didn't value me, but by embracing who I was and letting the world see that I had truly changed. Allison's story wasn't just a journey from pain to success. It was an awakening to her own worth and the true meaning of family. Through the hurt and betrayal, she learned that success wasn't about getting revenge or proving herself to those who never appreciated her. Instead, she redefined her value, rebuilt her life from a foundation of self-respect and independence. Allison chose to forgive but not forget, to open her heart but not be naive, and ultimately, she found her true peace.